Well, good evening. I'm Dave Jones, meteorologist with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021, and Nicholas is taking all the headlines in the tropics right now. We have other areas of the tropics that we're watching as well, but this one is more immediate. So this is the one I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes because it poses a real threat to southeastern coastal Texas and southwestern Louisiana, perhaps central Louisiana, for flooding, for very intense rainfall rates. Let me just show you what it looks like right now. This is what the view is from the NOAA GOES satellite. It orbits right above the equator, and it orbits at a speed that the Earth turns. So it keeps the satellite over the same spot all the time. So that's why we can look straight down and observe the cloud movements. And you can see it. This is Tropical Storm Nicholas. Winds of 65 miles per hour as far as the National Hurricane Center 5 o'clock update Eastern time goes. And it looks like Nicholas is trying to get its act together and could strengthen a little bit further, perhaps even making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. We'll be watching that throughout the evening tonight and into tomorrow. But let me get a little bit closer and show you what it looks like from the vantage point of this visible satellite picture. You can see the spin-off of some of the lower clouds here, and then the upper clouds are going this way. You can see these cirrus clouds. That's what they're called. They're composed of ice crystals up at about 30 to 35,000 feet up in the atmosphere. But you also see some bubbling of clouds right towards the middle. That's called convection. It's called thunderstorm activity, and it's showing that there is a lot of instability around the center of Nicholas. Now, what's very interesting with this storm is it's kind of lopsided as far as the wind field goes and a lot of the heavy rain. It's mainly to the north and the east of the center of the storm. Let me show you GeoCollaborate and where Nicholas sits right now. And we'll zoom in just a little bit closer here. You can see Nicholas, this is the center of the storm as of 5 p.m. Eastern time on this Monday. But look at the wind field. Let me turn the radar data. I'll turn that radar data off here so you can see the wind field. All of this area in yellow is the tropical storm wind field. And here's the storm here. So there's really not a whole lot to the west of the storm. It's very interesting, but it's explained. There's been southwesterly, what we call shear. There are winds at about 5 or 10,000 feet that are blowing, making Nicholas lopsided. You really need winds that are calm around the environment of a hurricane for it to sort of stack up so it can create an eye and rapidly grow. Fortunately, we don't have that. But what we do have are very warm Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures, upwards of 85 to 86 degrees. You only need above 80 degrees to form and maintain a hurricane, so it's well within that category. But what we see here are the winds are confined to the east and the north of the center. But look at this. They're about to move onshore. So coastal areas of Texas are about to start feeling tropical storm force winds. And some of the buoys in the Gulf of Mexico are reporting sustained tropical storm force winds as well. Matter of fact, we can turn on some of those buoys and I'll show you what they look like. We won't go and investigate all of them, but I'll zoom in here a little bit closer and you can see what it looks like. For example, here's a buoy right here that has winds that are 33 knots, gusting to 44 knots, almost 45 knots. That's about 54 miles per hour in this area. Here's another buoy that's just off the coast here. No recent data has been reported. Some of these buoys just need maintenance like anything, and they're very harsh. They behave very harshly in the salt environment and salt atmosphere because they're in the ocean. Here's one that's close to land, as a matter of fact, MBE2, winds gusting to 43 knots. So already winds are gusting well above tropical storm force along the coastline, and that's going to push the surge, going to push more of the Gulf of Mexico onto the shoreline, and it could be in the area of 2 to 3 feet. You can see some of the local statements if you live along the Texas coast, how you might be impacted by these tropical storm force winds as far as the surge goes. But these are all the buoys that are maintaining their measurements and watching what's coming ashore as far as Nicholas goes. I'm going to back out here just a little bit because you can see that Louisiana is colored red. You might remember from some of my previous updates and briefings, particularly with Ida, when a state turns red in GeoCollaborate, it means that they've issued a state of emergency. And the governor of Louisiana has done just that, issued another state of emergency, even though one is already in effect for Ida and Ida cleanup. This one is in effect for potential flooding rains that could impact southern and central Louisiana. So that means that the governor is putting in place the mechanism through which they may be able to get federal support to recover after any devastating floods that could happen. So I'm going to turn Louisiana off from being red just so we can focus a little bit more on the weather and the weather impacts. And when I mean that, I'm talking about rainfall. There's going to be a significant impact as far as rain goes in this area. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn off the excessive rainfall forecast for day 2. That means tomorrow. So this is what's going to happen here. You see all of these kind of contours, these different colors. Red means bad, and it means that there's a high likelihood that flooding rain is going to develop throughout southern Louisiana and the eastern part of the Texas coast, and a little bit inland too. Now, this includes the city of Houston and Galveston. And so those of you, also Beaumont, those of you who recall previous storms where you've had anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of rain, perhaps even more, you know who you are and you know how your neighborhood floods. Make preparations to leave your area if you think it's going to flood with this amount of rain. Listen very closely to the National Weather Service and your favorite local broadcast meteorologists, as they will be covering this nonstop until this threat ends. This update is for the Fleet Response Working Group and the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment so they can prepare to get crews into the area to restore power, to deliver goods and services, to get communications back up and running, and also to get medical supplies into areas that need it. So this area in red, which stretches all the way from the central Texas coast over to past Lafayette and down towards just west of Houma in Louisiana, could see flooding rains, and that means rainfall totals of 8 to 16 inches, perhaps locally 20 inches of rain. Areas in yellow that you see here could see the same, but just a little less likely, but still the impacts could be very broad and widespread from heavy rainfall. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to turn on the next 7 days and how much rain is anticipated by the Weather Prediction Center, which is a part of the National Weather Service. They're located in College Park, Maryland. They work very hard at looking at the weather patterns and seeing how much rain could fall based on the interaction of Nicholas with the land and with other atmospheric phenomenon that could wring out these heavy rain showers. So all of these pockets of yellow that you see here, you see those? Those pockets denote a rainfall of perhaps 10 inches of rain. And this is pretty widespread here. This includes the area around Houston, just southeast of Houston. However, it means that locally you could also see much larger rainfall totals. If thunderstorms keep moving over the same location hour after hour, you could see well north of 10 inches of rain. Some areas, again, perhaps 20 inches of rain locally from the storm. Now, why is that? It's because Nicholas is forecast to move quite slowly as it makes landfall during the day tomorrow. The latest projection has the storm impacting the coastline. Let me turn off the rainfall forecast here. This position is 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. So 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, but that's just a point. It really doesn't matter when it makes official landfall. The impacts and the rainfall are going to be widespread. I'm going to turn on the radar data just so you can see where it is raining right now. And look at this. Here's the center of the storm down here. Look where all the rain is, well to the north, all the way extending all the way into central Louisiana and past Lake Charles. The rain you're seeing in Lake Charles right now is from Tropical Storm Nicholas. But these are very intense rainfall rates, perhaps 1 to 3 inches of rain per hour that will be moving on shore. And as the storm slows down, look at this. See, it's going to take a turn. It's going to take its sweet time. Not going to be over Mississippi near Jackson until Thursday afternoon. So we have a long duration rain event that's going to set up in southeastern Texas and south central Louisiana. So be prepared for that. If your community is offering sandbags, take them up on it if you think that your home is susceptible to flooding. That's the way it looks for the next several hours and also into the next couple of days, a long duration rain event from Tropical Storm Nicholas. There is still a chance that Nicholas could become a Category 1 hurricane before landfall, which would topple a lot of trees. You'd only need wind gusts up around 40 to 50 miles per hour to tip trees over, particularly if the soil is saturated. But this, as a long-term rain event, is going to drop a lot of rain southeast Texas and also central and southern Louisiana. We'll keep you posted. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications. I did want to share with you also, just in case you get a warning from the National Weather Service. Let's say you hear there's a flash flood warning. What does that mean? What if you hear there's a flash flood emergency? What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at that. This is what it looks like. When you have a flash flood emergency, and that flash flood emergency is issued, it means that you have an exceedingly rare situation that's setting up. And that situation is something that is going to impact your life. If you live in an area where a flash flood emergency is issued, then that means that your life is in danger. Do not leave your home. Get to a higher level if you possibly can. I know there are no basements in this area and in southern and central Louisiana. So you want to get as high as possible if you hear a flash flood emergency. A flash flood warning means that flash flooding conditions are being observed. And when that happens, it means that dangerous flash flooding is happening. It means that homes and businesses will be threatened. So move to higher ground and never drive through flooded waters. If you're driving down the road and you see water across a road, do not cross it. You see too many videos of cars trying to get through it. Oh, I have a four-wheel drive. Oh, I have a big car with big tires. I can make it. No, it only takes a foot of water to move a car off of the road. Do not attempt to drive across a flooded roadway. More deaths are experienced in cars when floods hit than anywhere else because people think that they can drive across a flooded roadway. Remember, a flash flood emergency means catastrophic damage is resulting. Do not leave your home. It's a life-threatening situation, and do not attempt to travel. So some of the key points I want to leave you with this video. Nicholas is expected to produce storm total rainfall of perhaps 8 to 16 inches of rain. This may produce widespread flooding, especially in urbanized, highly urbanized areas. So downtown Houston, Galveston, Beaumont, you folks could see some serious flooding out of Nicholas. And there's a potential for isolated minor to perhaps in some cases major river flooding, which would happen a day or two after the flooding ends. That will continue even when the sun starts to come out after the storm moves on. National Weather Service will keep you posted on all the warnings and advisories being issued. We'll be back with another update, perhaps even after the 11 o'clock advisory tonight or tomorrow after the 11 o'clock a.m. advisory. So thanks for watching this update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This has been a sensitive information sharing environment, Fleet Response Working Group update. I appreciate you watching, and we'll be back with another update come in the next several hours, likely after the 11 o'clock update.